A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, George Lucas gave us Jar Jar Binks. And then he quit. Thank God. Hello, J.J. Abrams.
Welcome to our Star Wars Reactions podcast. I'm Aaron.
I'm Adam.
I'm Jason.
And we're going to give you our reactions real quick to the movie that we saw. It was called Star Wars The Force Awakens.
It was.
I felt like I awakened.
From the Force?
To like a good movie.
Now, you saw it in 2D, right?
Yes.
I did too.
How it's meant to be seen. However, I'm going to see it in 3D.
False.
On Monday.
It was shot for 70mm 3D.
I saw it in 3D, and I thought there were plenty of things in that were cool 3D effects, but I did not feel that the 3D took away at all from the film.
What about the movie, though?
The movie was friggin' amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
This is the movie that we wanted instead of the ones that George Lucas
Yes.
gave us.
In 1999, we were hoping for this.
Yeah.
And some people might criticize it and be like, well, they just gave the fans exactly what they wanted. And I'm like, yep, that's fine.
All right,
we like that. We're good with that.
We
It's
should
fine.
note this will contain spoilers. Sorry,
Yes.
it's going to happen.
Spoiler alert.
That's where you
We
get
had
to
a
it.
really nice soft lead-in with
We did.
absolutely no spoilers.
We did.
If you're still hanging around, though, and you're like, I want to see how much the spoilers are. Well, here's like the first spoiler that's a non-spoiler. There's no after-credit video. There's no
after credits.
No reason to stick around for the credits unless you like credits.
And
Yeah.
unless you don't have to take a massive piss.
Yeah.
Speaking of...
I really did. Afterwards.
Everybody
Holy
does.
shit.
It's a
man.
gallon of soft drinks.
I went in, I drank like 3 coffees, and it wasn't ready right before the movie
That was a
to get
dumb
it out.
move.
It really
That was
was.
a dumb move.
It was.
I had to leave during the part when Finn found out that Super Pilot was still alive or whatever and went and talked to him, I
It's
assume.
a decent part. Yeah.
I was just like, I gotta pee. This seems like a good time. I kind of know what's going to happen here. I vaulted over the railing in front of my seat.
Sure.
Almost nailed an old lady sitting next to me.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else was like, like just freaked out.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm just going to the bathroom.
Well, you know.
As I ran from the theater.
Yeah. Yeah. The theater that I went to, they've got the Pepsi products that the mixing machines, the touch screens.
Ooh, those are cool.
First time I've ever used one of those. I'm a fan of Pepsi over Coke anyway. But so I got like my Diet Mountain Dew.
This video
and, like,
sponsored by Pepsi.
I'm gonna add some lime flavoring to it. And I did. I'm so glad I did. It was the best ever.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's really
wow.
good.
That's pretty special.
They do have Pepsi Lime in a can.
Yes, but this was Diet Mountain Dew with additional lime. So
I
it's
admit I
completely-
did not fully listen.
No,
So I apologize.
I used that one. I just filled it up with regular Pepsi. Then I went to the bathroom and I pissed in it. This show is sponsored by Pepsi with piss in it.
Okay.
So anyway, it was the movie that we wanted. And
Yes.
I got it, and
And I was.
let's talk about positives first.
Okay.
Okay,
We can
I
do
just
that.
really loved Jakku.
Jakku, the false Tatooine.
Yeah, but it was great because there was the wreckage of the Imperial
Yeah.
army
Yeah.
all over the
It's
planet.
wonderful.
It seemed like maybe they built up an economy just based on salvaging, and scavenging these old ships, which is just fantastic because you saw her climbing up to this really high point in an old Star Destroyer and, getting stuff that people couldn't really reach, and she had, because it's been mostly worked over.
Sure.
Very, very subtle touch. Did you guys notice this when the TIE fighter, there was a TIE fighter...
It was like buried in the sand inside the
well, no,
wreckage.
There was that, but-
it crashed during the initial Millennium
Oh
Falcon
yeah,
chase.
people were running out.
And they
immediately
immediately
run
were
out
like,
to-
scavenge!
Yeah,
That
it's
was
great.
hilarious.
It was like that movie, the one with Nicolas Cage, where...
Gone in 60 seconds.
No.
National Treasure.
No.
Raising Arizona.
Damn it. The one about war.
Ghost Rider.
What? Lord of War. There's a scene where they just like land their plane and then the whole plane is immediately raided by people who just take shit out of it. It reminded me of that.
That was a subtle little touch. Some other subtle, like I noticed a lot of little things that I really liked. There was this crazy bipedal, like horse creature that looked like something straight out of the movie from the, like the original New
Sure.
Hope. That was just like walking along in town, and it had like a big brace on its shoulder, looked like an oxen, like half an oxen or
Oh
something
sure,
like
and then
that.
it had
you
like
know?
mechanical arms.
I think so. Yeah.
It was pulling a
It was
sledge. or something.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just all kinds of crazy stuff like that. That was really great. Anyway, other things that you guys liked?
I liked the variety of locations. Like you said, you had your desert planet, and then you ended up going to a lush green place, And then
with no Ewoks.
And then at the end you
Ewoks
end
are
up
very underrated.
You end up in a place where there's a lot. It looks like a water planet with a few sparse islands on it. You know, and so
Scotlandia.
Sure. And so you've got these different places, but they're not as of yet iconic like Tatooine and Endor, you know, like because they're so fresh and new. What are they going to do with them?
The movie did such a good job of laying the groundwork for so much more stuff.
That's so true.
I'd almost take that to a critique of the movie where it was like there was so much left unsaid and so much that we didn't find out that I was fucking frustrated after the movie was over because I was like, I want to know about this character, this character, this character. Even the Chrome Stormtrooper, I wanted to know more about her back history.
I'm guessing you'll find out.
Yeah.
Disney seems like they got a plan.
I really hope that we learn more about all this stuff. Obviously, the main characters, we barely know anything about them. There was just so much that we don't know that they didn't tell us where, how that Yoda woman with the goggles found Luke's lightsaber.
Yeah, she even has a line about it. It says that's a story for another time.
It's like, come on, just give us a hint, just a little hint. Give us something a little bit more. But that's a good frustration to have. It's like you want so much more that you just you can't believe you have to wait for 2 years or whatever it is for the next movie.
Yeah. No, next year, Rogue One.
Well, I mean, for the next actual continuous story.
Yeah. Now, the thing is with this, too, is that the timelines from one film to the next seem really long. They seem excessively long.
Depends on the movies. Between 1 and 2, there's 10 years. Between 2 and 3, there's 3 years. Between 3 and 4, there's 30 years. Between 4 and 5, there's, I believe, 3 years. And between 5 and 6, there's 10 years.
In the story.
Yes.
But I'm talking about the amount of time I have to wait for the next one. That's too long.
Okay.
That's too long.
I agree. It should be coming out yearly.
You should have done it like Peter Jackson, Lord of the Rings, because wasn't that a faster release?
It shot more at once.
Yeah.
You're just taking a lot of chances with hopefully none of our actors will die.
Yeah, true.
Hopefully Luke will, Mark Hamill will stick around. And
hopefully Carrie Fisher won't spend all of her money on cocaine
and dogs.
Yeah.
She has a lot of weird dogs.
Tongue hanging out.
Defective tongues.
She's wacky. As far as weaknesses go, I guess Carrie Fisher's performance I wasn't that impressed with.
Well, we could stay on
okay,
topics.
let's stay on
positives. There's a lot more to say than I liked some of the locations.
You should. Adam, what was your favorite thing about the movie?
See, I like to focus more on the negative, ironically.
I know.
What I like most, I think, was how this movie successfully set up the entire next universe, while also, without saying a damn word about it, told us a lot about the post events of Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi kind of leads you to believe they blew up the second Death Star, Empire completely crumbles, even though that never really made sense. This movie tells you in one of the almost opening shots, they're on a planet, Jakku, a planet we don't know, yet there's Imperial and Rebel forces everywhere, which means that fight kept going, obviously, for years, and technically it seems like it's not even over yet.
Right.
I like that a lot because that's a lot of great backstory. I also like how this movie literally destroyed the prequels by when they built the fucking new Death Star, they used it to destroy all the planets that were most important in the prequels. Like Coruscant gets blown away.
Yeah.
And they're like, this Disney's way of saying like,
no more
prequels.
No more Imperial Senate. We have to assume Jar Jar was on Coruscant when it got blown up, so he's dead.
There's a lot of fan theories that suggest that Jar Jar was on Alderaan when it was blown up. Not that matters, but it's interesting.
Jar Jar's alive in here, though.
In the heart.
That's true. Like that part of the heart that's black and squeezing off the blood to the rest of the heart.
Right, the part that's got the Widowmaker in it.
Mm-hmm.
I still like to buy the Jar Jar was secretly a villain.
Yeah,
it makes so much sense, dude.
I'm starting to come around to that theory. I still think some of it was just weak storytelling, but I'm starting to agree. Like maybe George had plans to make Jar Jar a Sith, and then he was like, "Well, everybody hates it so much. I guess I have to add in Dooku suddenly."
How do I make him worse? Then I'm more hated than he is.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we're not talking about the prequels.
Right.
Fuck them.
All right.
Well, we were talking about how they got destroyed, which is what you wanted.
Yes, that's great.
So there was a lot of subtle jabs at the prequels, some not so subtle, like destroying Coruscant. But lines like, we find out, of course, that the stormtroopers are not all clones anymore, which is impressive because obviously the prequel setup that they were. So there's even a line about like, we don't use clones and we could go back. No, clones are stupid. Like they just reject them. There's just a lot of stuff about like we're not going to talk about boring political Senate dialogue. We're just going to blow up the entire Senate. Like,
Little jibes here.
Yeah,
and
a lot
there.
of that stuff just to
Yeah.
kind of be like, this is not the prequel era. That's over. And that was. I kind of defend the prequels in a lot of ways, but I do like that we've moved on completely.
What was the president's favorite part about the movie?
Now, okay, so my favorite part about the movie is the same as Jason's. Jason sent me a letter, so I'm just
Jason sent you a screener too?
sent me a screener.
Jason who?
Never mind. So my favorite part of the movie was Finn, because he was a very likable character right from the start. How do you not like that guy? He's got, he's got a conscience. He's following his heart, and he's still very naive. He's not rushing into things. He's not overly brave. He just wants to get the hell out of there. So he's a quick-witted guy in some ways, but very likable. And then also to find the other main character, she is counter to him in many ways, but also very clever and very likable. So you've got these two characters. Neither one are terribly flawed, which is sort of unusual. But I guess we'll see.
I really liked how he would grab Rey's hand all the time and like pull
Yeah.
her out of it,
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
like she was like, "No, what are you doing? Stop that shit!" And like he was just like, "Nope." He was just like insisting on doing that, which is really awesome. That was a fun touch. I really think that if you look at the new characters and you got and you jettisoned Han Solo and Leia and all the references to the original movies. And if you just were watching the story of these new three characters, basically, also including Kylo Ren, it would be a really great story, and you'd want to see more. The nostalgia factor is just this like bonus thing that really like, if you've seen all the other movies and you grew up with them, that's another just like bonus, like really just nails home these incredible feelings and emotions from like when Han and Leia hugged. I just about lost my shit. That was like, holy fuck.
And I felt like that was one of the negatives.
Really?
I'll get to that. I'll get that in a second.
I'm kind of in between on that as well, because I agree with you. The movie totally functions. If it wasn't called Star Wars and it didn't have that, it would be a good movie. But one thing it fails to do is establish a lot of the rules that Star Wars has, like what is the Force, what is a Jedi, what is a Sith, because it doesn't have to. It's depending. But if you took that out, I'm not sure the movie would really hold on its own.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff they just don't explain. There's all this character backstory stuff that they don't explain, and I'm sure it'll all be explained later, but that leaves you a little frustrated after.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying from if this was the first movie of the entire series, and I think this is one of the big issues a lot of people have with the prequels without really realizing it, was that the prequels do not establish what the Force is. They don't ever talk about it. Neither did this movie. The first movie that ever talks about it is A New Hope, when Obi-Wan is just like, the Force is a field that surrounds us, combines us, all that shit. And I'm just saying, if you didn't have that explanation, you might constantly be wondering, like, why can some people do this stuff? What's going on?
But
Why
wouldn't
are
that be
lightsabers?
wouldn't that actually be a positive in J.J. Abrams' eyes? Because he's talking about the mystery boxes.
I guess
That you go
but
from mystery box to mystery
but
box. In
that's
the
debatable.
plot.
This is kind of pointless because he obviously didn't make that movie. But if he had, I'm not sure that the movie necessarily would have worked, because how exactly do I phrase
Well,
this?
why did you think it was a weak point?
Okay, I thought it was a weak point for a couple of reasons. I went into this movie pretty cynical, and I think a lot of people do go into this cynical. They go into it because they know it's a cash grab. If the other movies weren't popular, if this one wasn't set to break some huge records, they wouldn't have made it. So to have, let's trot out Han Solo and Leia and get her in a friggin' corset and Harrison Ford, he broke his leg. Do we shoot him or do we splint it? How do we, And then you see him sort of hobbling his way through the scenery in the movie, knowing the backstory. I hate to say it, but aside from Luke, aside from that performance, which we'll get to, I think it felt very phoned in. It felt entirely phoned in. Even Chewie felt a little phoned in. Tired and just bedraggled. And maybe that's just time beating these characters down, but I don't think it was. I think it was quite literally, all right, trot us out there. Big money on the line here. This is a cash cow for us. And I don't think Harrison Ford needed the money. I presume Carrie Fisher probably did. So, you know, it just felt so forced.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone went into it with the attitude of just like, got to make some money, don't really care about this. They're so fucking passionate about it. You can tell that people were passionate about it. From like, and what you're saying about them being old, I agree with that somewhat. Like, they are old.
They are. It's true. But I'm talking about like the interaction between Leia and Han.
Yeah.
Felt more like an interaction between Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford. Honestly, it felt like an interaction between those two humans as people who were handed pieces of paper and here, read this stuff. And then they knew what it was. Sort of like, we had some good times, didn't we? Wink,
wink. Like maybe the movie didn't need it.
It didn't need that. It didn't need that energy. What it needed was sincere fucking energy, and it didn't have sincerity behind that stuff. It was that, oh, flyboy. Oh, and I understand the original films had that vibe to it. Oh, your warship and all that stuff. But this felt... Harrison Ford on his own and Carrie Fisher on her own were fine. But when they got together and then there was chunks of Carrie Fisher's dialogue, which I felt were just fucking stupid.
Yeah.
There were pieces of it where she was like repeating things.
She didn't have much to do. They didn't give her much good dialogue.
Yeah, and the dialogue was sort of like, and I don't remember any of it because it was I didn't like it, but it was sort of like she was explaining something to someone, and there was repetition that didn't need to exist. But there was no passion behind it.
Part of what I liked about the older...
And the whole thing about the, oh, here's how we shut this thing down. We got to go in and we got to do it this way. Of course we do. Thanks a lot for that. Boom. Too easy. Too fucking easy. Has the Empire or whatever not learned already how easy it is to turn their shit off? I mean, and then there's, all of our shit is still, like, 2 guys with a couple of grenades can take us down.
We have officially moved into negatives.
Sorry.
I would just say the thing about them sort of standing back, being the older generation, not really, they just sort of watched all the younger people run around and make their mistakes and do whatever their things were. And they didn't, like, moralize with them. They didn't say, like, you should do this, you should do that. And I kind of liked, they were just like, nope, we've done all this. They're not going to listen to us because they're like... we were when we were young, and they just sort of let them do their thing and make their mistakes and whatever. They're just like, every now and then it was just like, nope, she'll figure out you're lying. And then they didn't focus too much on the fact that Finn lied about where he was coming from.
I thought that was going to be like some big...
Which I was really happy with, because I didn't want some big dramatic, just like, what? You lied to me? No!
What is the Empire called in this one? The First Order?
First Order, yeah.
What would the First Order have done if the shoe was on the other foot? Well, they clearly would have tortured him and, or turned him into a double agent or something, right?
Right.
But in this, they're just like, you're a nice boy. Hang out with us. What a good kid.
But as far as the Death Star goes, like, somebody made a good
Let's
good
stick
point.
with the original cast thing here for a minute.
Okay.
We'll move on to Death Star in a bit. I think we all probably have problems with that.
Okay, original cast quick, because we got to move on to the Death Star.
So, I agree. I think that we don't know. You said you wanted to talk about Mark Hamill's performance specifically.
Yeah.
There isn't much to that yet. I think I was genuinely surprised how much Harrison Ford was in this movie. I figured he was going to have like a couple of scenes, and I think we all kind of surprised he dies. I figured he would die based on everything we heard. I thought he would have a couple of scenes and then just like die early on in the movie and like do kind of the Obi-Wan role where he just kind of motivates them throughout the rest of the movie. I did not expect him to be around for nearly as much. And Carrie Fisher only had a couple of scenes, and I gotta be honest, she was probably the weakest part of the movie. Her performance was not great, and I think especially in the scene that Jason's talking about when they were kind of awkwardly put in a scene that everyone knew had to exist. But I think her best moment in that whole movie was when she was just kind of when she knows Han's dead and she just kind of like falls a little bit. I think that was actually her best piece.
I liked to imagine that she was standing at the craft services table and somebody had just taken the last raspberry Danish. When you watch the movie again, Aaron, I want you to imagine she's at the craft services table and she just sees that someone had just grabbed the last raspberry Danish.
And then they filmed it.
And they filmed that. And then when that scene happens, you will fucking laugh out loud. I swear.
That's probably true.
Whatever gets you motivated to act, I guess, you know. You gotta do
Look, don't get me wrong. I love Carrie Fisher. I think she's an amazing mind.
She's really funny,
and
actually.
nobody can contain her.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like they could have done them all more justice by giving them better, by making those characters better.
I know Christopher Walken has hung out with Carrie Fisher. Can he talk about that?
Look, I said, Carrie, you're gonna be Princess Leia again. You're gonna put on a bikini. No, you're gonna rule over an army of people. Sorry, I got a cold. I was standing out in line waiting for the movie. I got a cold.
They didn't let you into the Hollywood premiere?
No. They didn't know it was me. I had a stormtrooper mask on.
Were you one of the guys who beat that guy up when he said spoilers after the movie?
I beat him down and kicked him in his testicles, punched him. So yeah, that's that. I just think they would have done better if they would have had. I don't know how you write them better. I think if you make Carrie Fisher more of a badass. I mean, she lived through the Empire. She's not a princess anymore. She's a military commander. She wasn't. Akbar was more of a military commander, and his performance was better than Carrie Fisher's in comparison.
And we didn't get to see her sort of in that capacity much.
No, she just sort of like nodded. Hey, that's a great idea. We should do that. Yeah,
and the rest of the time she's just like, oh, it's Han Solo. Oh gosh. Oh, I love you so much. Oh, blah. And like that was the extent of it. So she just got to do that instead.
If you loved him, then you should have put a ring on it.
Yeah.
Not that this matters, because ultimately what does matter is their on-screen performance. But if you do look at the behind the scenes of how they all got in there, the three of them didn't really want to do that movie. And they all had to like cut deals. And George Lucas apparently had to personally call up Carrie Fisher and convince her to do it.
Which one? This one?
Yeah. She apparently really didn't want to do this movie. And he convinced her to do it. Just like, you got to do it for the fans, so they shut the fuck up. Pretty much.
I doubt that's how he phrased it.
I doubt it too. But
well, knowing that backstory, now it's quite obvious. I mean, they really could have gotten anyone else in there.
No.
It's like, was there a phone call to Tina Turner when they made Mad Max? Like, the fans really want Anti-Entity to come into the thing on a zip line and...
Harrison Ford, he didn't want to do it either, but he always said, like, I want Han to die. Han should have died in Empire. Han should have died in Return of the Jedi.
Yep.
And he was like, I will never do it unless Han dies. And apparently they were like, all right, we'll make a whole movie where the big fucking twist is that you die.
Well, this is... and hearing this after the fact is the biggest fucking spoiler of all, because it proves my point that, look, I loved the movie. There were parts where I literally teared up. But I hate the fact that that's the storyline. That's the, we had to call these people and beg them to come in. Well, how fucking passionate could they possibly have been about? No wonder I'm talking shit about the performances. No wonder. It's because they had to be begged to come in to do it for the fans. You could have easily just said, get Luke.
Mark Hamill. He didn't want to do it either. We haven't talked about his motivation yet. But you may not like it. So this is potential future spoilers, speculation, basically. Mark Hamill has said for years he had really no interest in returning to Star Wars unless he got to play a villain. And he's in there. We don't know much about what was going on in his head right now. We know he was on the path to becoming a Sith. We know the original end of Return of the Jedi had him become a Sith until George changed it.
Yeah, but it's also entirely possible that Mark Hamill was just like, well, I guess I'll take this giant paycheck.
That's possible. No, you're right.
Appear in a few scenes and, whatever.
There is a huge difference there because obviously Harrison Ford didn't need the money. His whole thing was, I want this to stop and go away. This is my last hurrah. That seems to be his whole thing. Carrie Fisher could have just been money combined with, come on, just be in the movie, and so this goes away. Mark, don't know.
We don't know his motivation.
It could have been purely monetary, or maybe that's the deal he requested, and they said they'll do it.
I think Mark, based on his voice work in animated series,
The Joker,
which he's very good at, based on that, and based on how enjoyable that must be for him. I think it's character driven, and I think for him it is his own personal character as a performer that's going to drive this from here out.
Absolutely.
And I hope good things. I hope good things come.
He's on the record as being interested in playing the role again if he got to play as a villain. He thought that would be interesting. And J.J. Abrams was there. It was on
it was this Kevin Smith did some show where that Mark Hamill was flat out talking, and then across from the room is J.J. Abrams listening to him. That was 10 years ago.
So that's entirely possible. I don't know. Yeah. I'm glad that they were in the movie. I think the movies are going to move on from them now.
Yeah.
I think it was sort of just a passing the torch.
Exactly. They had to do the pass the torch role.
Yeah, you couldn't just put out the movie without them, honestly.
They could have shown a planet. And they could have shown
them hanging out and just blew up the planet.
Blown up the planet.
That could have been the beginning of the movie. The movie would have started with them all hanging out at a resort, being like, "Man, everything was so great for us now that we took over." And then the new Death Star harnesses the power of the sun and just blows their planet up.
Okay, so let's look at it this way.
That would have given the Death Star a point.
So you had
yes.
All right. So if we were to look at just this movie and the self-contained performances of Mark Hamill, I'm assuming you don't really have an issue since he really didn't have much going on.
I could take very little away from
just
his
yes or no.
He was fantastic.
Okay, great. So Harrison Ford minus the scene where the scenes where he's interacting with Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
How did you feel? Good or bad?
Great. He was great.
Okay.
He was fine.
So then really the issue just boils down to Carrie Fisher.
No.
Okay.
The issue boils down to because I'm weighing Harrison Ford's performance against the whole idea that the only reason he was doing it is to kill this thing and to do away with Han Solo. Knowing that, like, hey, you did a great job not seeming so much like you're phoning it in.
But he may not have been phoning it in. He may have been excited that this character was going to die.
Yeah, because he's been begging for that since the 80s.
Right. I don't know. I thought they were fine. So, okay, here's what we're doing.
Yeah, let's move on.
You have exactly one sentence to talk about your opinion of the Death Star in this movie.
Should not have happened.
Ill-conceived, useless machinery.
Could have been a fine movie without.
Yeah. All right, I think we all kind of agree that you didn't need to do the Death Star a third time.
They could have had just a base on like Endor.
Yeah. You could have just had a base.
It could have been simplified. It didn't have to go crazy. They didn't have to harness the powers of suns, although that was admittedly kind of cool.
It was. The one thing I would have liked about it is if they had done it exactly the way they did. They set up like we got another Death Star, and then there's that scene where Han is there, and like we can blow it up. We always blow up these things.
There's always a way.
Like he says that, and you get all the way to that point, and they fail. If they failed to blow it up, they still got the people out of there. They managed to survive, but they failed to blow this thing up, and it's going to be a continued impending problem. That would have actually been surprising.
Yes, that would have been great. Or if they blow that one up, and then there's like 6 more right behind it.
Yeah, or it blows up in like 2-4 minutes place, like a fucking Hydra.
It was just too easy. It was too easy for them to do that, and then when they're flying away from it and it explodes, and everybody in the theater is just sort of like, oh. Right.
Yeah, you were supposed to like applaud and be excited.
You're not happy.
Just like, we knew that would happen.
I'm just like, yeah, right, of course.
Okay, sure.
Like, it would have been cool if they failed and they'd somehow worked that out. But
yeah,
you know what? It is what it is, and that part's just kind of pointless to discuss. I really liked Kylo Ren. I love the part where he's like expressing his doubt about the light and how the light's creeping in, and he's like, I'm trying to keep it out, but the good comes back in.
Yeah, it was very similar to the probably the inner turmoil of a Jedi on the on that side of it.
Yeah, but you don't get to really see that.
Right.
So
I loved that. One of the things I really loved about the movie is they showed him with that unbridled rage.
Yeah.
And that's what the dark side is all about, is not having control. Let your rage out. And you didn't get to see Darth Vader do that much.
We have to assume that he just went in his little hexagonal thing and just masturbated furiously.
Yeah.
Every day it was just like so fucking angry.
Who, Darth Vader? His scarred, nerve damaged,
scarred, burned dick. Maybe he had someone do his prostate for him or something.
Yeah.
Well, if you watch Revenge of the Sith, only his limbs really get burned. So, presumably his dick is in pristine shape.
Darth Vader's pristine dick.
Yeah.
The new band. Okay, so we should probably do final thoughts here. This is getting long.
I think that I'm curious to see where they take him, because at the moment he's kind of a weak sauce villain, which is kind of by his own admission in the movie. Like, you look at it and going, he's doing a Darth Vader impression. Like, that's what this character is.
Yeah.
But in the movie, that's actually a source of conflict. Like, he knows he's just doing an impression of Vader, but he wants to try and do him justice, and is failing miserably to do so.
He's really powerful, as they established in the beginning of the movie, but he still has a lot of issues to work out and, training to do, which they're going to do. And but I think that if he was too powerful or too in control of his power to start with, then he would have just killed Finn and Rey, and that would have been the end of it.
Yeah, so that's an interesting debate, because I've heard people talking about this, which is Kylo Ren's an established, not Sith, but obviously, Sith-like figure, and then you have Rey, who is brand new to the Force. Like, you see her use it for the first time ever, and hear about it for the first time ever in that movie. And she goes one-on-one with him in a lightsaber duel and kicks his ass.
He's injured.
True, but that's just what do we make of that scene? Do we make of that as like sloppy, or do we make of that she's just really OP, or that he's
I don't think that he's ever
something else?
I don't think he's ever encountered someone who can actually resist him.
That is probably true. I mean,
so through him,
because the only person in the entire galaxy, it seems, that could have fought him is Luke.
Right.
Because he's the last Jedi. There are no other Sith, apparently.
I think he could have taken Finn and just bashed him against a tree like he did with her and not had to do that lightsaber deal. But I'm assuming that when he said traitor, that he was like, now we're going to do this thing that, people with honor do, which is do a lightsaber
Are you
battle.
talking about when they brought out that thing that they used in Revenge of the Sith? The lightsaber, not the lightsaber, but the thing that like the General Grievous' droids fight with?
No, that was a stormtrooper thing. Well, yeah, okay.
The same weapon.
Right, it happened earlier where a stormtrooper was like, traitor, and then we're going to fight with old school, where I'm not going to blast you because this is what we do to traitors. We prove that we're cool and that you're not,
Yeah. Should we talk about Finn's use of the lightsaber and why that was kind of weird?
I loved it. I loved
it was
that.
fine.
See,
I don't think he's a Jedi. I don't want to talk about it too much.
I don't want to talk about his potential future. I just want to talk about what happened in the movie. I like the idea that he had the lightsaber and was using it like almost as a defense weapon. Like, oh shit, I don't know what else to do. I just have this thing.
I got it.
That would have been fine. The fact that he used it more than once and actually went on the aggressive with it, or the offensive with it, that's when I kind of went like, maybe they're trying to set up something.
Maybe a little iffy, but he's combat trained. He's not an idiot.
But he does have that line about like, I need a blaster. I only know how to use a blaster.
Yeah, but he's running away. He's not secure.
He's expanding his character.
Fair enough.
He's showing us this is the point at which I will go on the offensive. Finally, finally, I won't run away because my friend is hurt. And I'm going to use this because this is the only thing I have.
All right.
So
I guess what I'm saying is I would have bought use of that one time, not twice.
Well, I think that is what was expected. That was the expectation. He'll use it once as a defensive weapon because that's what everyone does with things like that in movies.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Some people are saying like, oh, it's too much like A New Hope.
It's a spiritual remake.
The movies, and I agree with you. However, one of the differences that I really, really like is the character of Finn and the fact that he's a stormtrooper who hates it and ran away. We don't know his full story, but I think that's a really unique and brilliant addition to A New Hope. And I just think that I think it's different enough. I think there's enough stuff there that got me really interested to know more about these characters that I think it doesn't matter that it's similar to New Hope, and that just makes people want more of it.
Not that you'll care about this, but that happens all the time in the Clone Wars show, which is canon still. It's the only thing.
What happens all the time?
Stormtroopers defect, and then they just decide to become other things.
So it's not that unique.
It's
the
unique
Star
to the
Wars
movies,
universe.
not unique to the Star Wars universe.
Correct.
But the Clone Wars is the only part of the non-movies that is still canon.
I need to watch those. Admittedly,
you should. It starts out kind of childish, and then it's like, holy shit, this is actually pretty good.
So I think one of the things we'll see in Episode 8, I hope we see, like Luke's training in Empire. I think we'll see Kylo Ren's training. I really want to see Kylo Ren's training. I want to see how brutal the training of a Sith is.
I want them to improve the CG of Boss. What's his face?
Boss
Coney Snow.
Snow.
Oh,
Stone?
Andy Serkis.
Snow Cone.
Snow Cone.
Andy Snowcone.
Andy Snowcone. I think we'll see that, and I don't think Snoke is the one calling the shots. I think there's somebody else.
Jar Jar Binks.
Oh my God! Don't even. Don't.
Well, and just
Mr. Black!
Well, think about it like this. I think just like Empire Strikes Back had Yoda, I think we'll see somebody else the equivalent of a Yoda, but for the dark side. That's not Snoke. That trains.
That
Kylo
was
Ren.
trains him?
The fan theory is that was Jar Jar Binks.
No, gross. Gross.
Gross.
Just
Gross.
saying. Did you hear they came up with the official title for the Rogue One today? It was supposed to be Star Wars Rogue One. Now they've decided to change it up. It's gonna be Rogue One Star Wars Stories.
Oh.
Because they're apparently whenever they do these spin-offs, it's gonna be the name of the movie, and then the subtitle will be Star Wars
Cool.
Stories.
I want to see the story of how all the ships got ruined on Jakku. I want to see the story of the Chrome Stormtrooper. I want to see.
I could see the Chrome Trooper movie happening.
Yeah.
I think the other one you're probably not gonna see that specifically. Maybe in a video game or something, but.
You
I
never
heard
know.
also
It might
they're
be
gonna-
part of something.
Somebody had posted somewhere that we would see a Han Solo film,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't feature Harrison Ford.
No, of course
It would
not.
be like,
Yeah, they started casting on that. Actually, that reminds me. They cast Adam Driver. A lot of fans there are a lot of dedicated Star Wars fans.
Sure.
And one of
Oh,
them,
yeah.
a lot of them figured out that Adam Driver, well before this movie came out, had to be Han Solo's son because they figured out that they were clearly, based on all the photos of people they were auditioning, they were looking for people with the same facial bone structure as Harrison Ford. Like, holy shit, you're dedicated to
Yeah,
figure that one
cool.
out.
Okay, my final thoughts are: I thought that the acting in this movie was fucking impressive.
Yeah.
For almost across the board.
Yeah.
Really good
Minus
acting.
one exception we discussed.
Right,
Which is
and
very sad.
the special effects were really great, except for the CG of Snoke and the little Yoda
Goggle lady.
I was really impressed by the quality of the actors, especially compared to the prequels, where the actors were fine, but they were directed poorly and just like obviously didn't get to act.
Yeah, Hayden Christensen's a fine actor. He was.
Well,
He had
obviously,
nothing to work with.
Obviously, Natalie Portman is too.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, they were just given.
Though-
they just got fucked up.
Not that it matters, but Ewan McGregor is obviously the best actor because even he was able to deliver those lines confidently, even when it was some of the worst dialogue ever.
Please do an Obi-Wan movie with him. Oh my God.
Yeah, he's like the one of those figures I could see actually bringing back.
He said that he would do it.
Yeah,
he,
I know.
He was
He-
interested.
He's the only
he
one
won't
I
come
can
back for the money. He wants to do it.
He's probably to redeem the character.
one quick thing that I found out about before, I found out after I saw the movie, but I would like to see the movie again knowing Daniel Craig is in it.
Oh, and that. Yep.
Yeah,
He's the
that
storm.
Daniel Craig is a stormtrooper when
The guy who drops his gun when he's told to drop his gun by.
Oh, really?
by
That's pretty
Hurrian.
cool. Random.
Yeah, I know.
He was filming Spectre in the same location, roughly the same
So that's why they
location,
did it.
and so he contacted J.J. Abrams and said, "Put me in, please. I want to be in it." And he's like, "Okay." And then they were just masked him up as a stormtrooper, and it's Daniel Craig.
That
That's-
scene was
that's pretty
hilarious.
awesome.
That
Yeah.
scene was hilarious.
So I guess we'll go out with this. Where would you rank Force Awakens amongst all the other primary Star Wars
Need more
movies?
time. Can't.
You can't
commit.
You don't have to commit to it. Just like your instinct, your basic. Like if you had to rank them, 1 through 7, what would your basic ranking be?
One being the best.
Like is your favorite
As
one?
compared to the other movies, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah. You don't. In fact, you don't have to name the others in what order. Just where would you put them?
I'd say second or third.
I'd go with third,
I would agree with that. I think probably about third, yeah.
which is high praise. It really is.
Oh, one other scene I really loved: the second time that Kylo Ren goes nuts and is chopping everything up because Rey escaped.
Yeah.
The two stormtroopers
Yeah.
are like walking along and they're like, "Oh shit!" and they like hightail
Yeah.
it the other direction. That was awesome.
I know we said we would stop, but like that whole thing where Han had like that junker or whatever, that really reminded me of Guardians of the Galaxy. Did you guys get that vibe?
Oh, yeah.
That was very Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
That was cool though. I liked seeing they said a lot without saying a lot.
Or was
about
it? Or was it Firefly?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Very Firefly-y.
Well, and then when he's talking to Leia, and they both basically say, "Well, we just went back to doing the things that we were really good at or really liked to do."
Yeah.
And then I had to wonder, like, well, if you're really good at that thing, how come you were failing at it? You're both technically failing at the thing that you think you're
Well,
good at.
they're making excuses. You know,
Yeah.
they failed at raising their son properly and
Holy
became
shit.
a nasty evil man. So,
Yeah.
final thoughts, real quick.
Go see it. If you see it in 3D, some people will worry about it ruining the experience. I don't think that's the case with this one. It has ruined other movies, but I don't think this is the one.
And Morgan Freeman, can you Star Wars this out?
Misa gonna die?
Very good.
Thanks for joining us. Check us out, Game Society Pimps. Subscribe to our channel. Help us keep making videos at patreon.com/Game Society Pimps. Emery will be back next time probably. He's got some stuff, and thanks for watching.